Hi guys, welcome back to Rondell Designs. So today I'm going to show you how to make a super easy wheat bag. So you can use the wheat bag as a heat pack, which most people do. You just have to heat it up in the microwave. You can also use it as a cold pack in summer, or if you've got a sprained ankle or something that you need a cold press, you just chuck it in the freezer for 10 minutes. Beautiful. So what might you use a wheat bag for? If you have neck pain, sore shoulders, really tight muscles, that's what I use this size for a lot. It's really soothing. Or if you've got tummy cramps, if it's that time of the month, you can make it half the size as well, so it's just a good size for your tummy. Or you can keep it nice and long so that you can wrap it around, or if you get back pain, you can put it so that it goes all the way up your back. Heaps of uses, or even just to take to bed to keep you warm at night instead of a hot water bottle. So let's get started. First things first, you need to get yourself some fabric. So it can be any fabric. Some people prefer a thicker, like corduroy fabric for heat bags because they believe it keeps the heat in longer, which I'm sure it does. But honestly, I usually just use a cotton drill or calico, and I find that the heat stays in for plenty of time. Just use any fabric. Even if you haven't got any fabric, have a look in your clothes. Have you got a piece of clothing that you no longer love that you could upcycle and turn it into a wheat bag maybe?
I should mention I tend to stick with natural fabrics rather than synthetic fabrics just because you are heating them in the microwave. Now, first thing we need to do is cut the fabric to the size that you want it, remembering that the fabric will be folded in half, so it's going to be half the size of what you're cutting. And then once you've folded your fabric over, make sure you get those corners nice and neat, lining up as much as you can. Now, you could iron this fabric to keep it nice and flat. I just tend to wing it.
Okay, so we've cut the fabric. Now, if you don't have a cutting mat and a rotary cutter, that is totally fine. You can just use a pair of good scissors, no problem at all. So this one's folded, ready to go. Let's go. So I've just got my Singer sewing machine. If you don't have a sewing machine, you could absolutely hand stitch your wheat bag. Obviously, it will take you quite a bit longer than if you're using a sewing machine, but it's literally just a straight stitch. Okay.
And you'll notice that I don't use any pins to keep the fabric in place. That's because I've made hundreds of these wheat bags. If you're just starting out, it's probably a good idea just to put a few pins along so that your fabric stays in place.
Now, I actually go and do, on these bigger wheat bags that carry quite a bit of wheat in them, I will actually do a double stitch.
And by a double stitch, I just mean going over with a straight stitch for a second time.
Just to keep it nice and strong. And then okay, so you've got your stitched fabric. Now we literally just put your hands in, grab the corners, fold it through, and just with your pointer finger, just sort of get those corners out really well. Now, I've used vintage fabric here. So these are literally, my vintage fabrics that I use are literally just old sheets. So obviously I check the quality of them before I use them, make sure they've got no stains or marks on them. And these are really popular. Okay, so you've got your base made, you've got your opening at one end. Now we just need to fill the wheat bag with your wheat. Now, just so you know, it doesn't have to be wheat. It could be rice or it could be barley. You can use so many grains for filling your heat pack. It really doesn't matter too much at all. Now we've just gotten a cup and we just need to fill. So you can use any old cup or a scoop to fill your wheat bag. Now, I usually fill approximately halfway full because you actually don't want it to be really full it just makes it a little bit more of a hazard, because wheat obviously and other grains are a bit of a fire hazard. So if they're overheated, they can smolder and catch fire. So you do need to be careful. And when you're heating your wheat bags, it's recommended that you put a glass of water in the microwave right next to the heat pack, so that way it keeps some moisture in the grain. And really, the first time you heat your heat pack, I want you to only do it in like 30-second intervals, just to make sure that you're not overheating it, because you don't want it to catch fire or for the grains to dry out too much. Okay, so we're nearly halfway there. Just a few more. Okay. All right, so that is just about halfway. So I'm just going to test it by folding that over, putting it out flat. Yeah, that's a good filled amount there. So definitely no more than halfway. Okay, so now we just need a couple of pins. So this basically, I just want to pin it right at the top of where the grain is, because I don't want all that wheat to, you can see, I'm just tacking them across. We don't want the wheat to come down the other end while we're sewing, and then it just gets in the way. So that I've just literally put 1, 2, 3 pins across there, and that's going to pretty much stop all that wheat from just running down the end here when I go to stitch. We get the ends, fold them over just like that. Now you could put a pin here to hold it in place. I usually don't. I just sort of go for it, but I've made a lot. So, okay, so you've just got that to hold it in place there. And that's going to be our seam. And then I like to start at the end that isn't sewn, because I find starting at the end where there is a seam, it's really bulky, because you're effectively having to sew 4 layers at once. So if we start at this end, and I just sort of go about 3 millimeters in from the edge. I'll take that pin that was holding it all straight. Now, getting to this end, which is the bulky end where the seam is, on most sewing machines, you'd probably turn it around now and go back over, but my sewing machine tends to get caught, even though it's supposed to be the industrial domestic. It just doesn't like going over a lot of seams. So what I tend to do is put the reverse stitch on and take it back just to that point where it's away from that bulky part of the heat pack, and that's when I'll then turn it around. And because we've got those pins halfway, that has kept all that wheat from falling as I turned it. And then to finish it, I'm just going to put that so it just goes over a couple of times. And then that's not going to come apart anytime soon. And then we just chop it nice and close to the edge. Excuse these dodgy scissors, they're not my normal sewing scissors. That is now stitched, so we just need to take those pins out that we were holding the wheat in place with. And that is done. How easy was that? Now you can heat it up and put it around your neck, soothe those shoulders. You could, some people put lines sort of in there to hold the wheat in place. I don't do that. You totally could, but this is just really basic way to make your wheat bags. Super easy, super fun, super practical. So this is the one that I've made previously. I also put a little tag on mine because I do sell them, but this one's sort of half the size of that. It just really depends on what size you need. If you want a longer, skinnier one or a shorter, fatter one, really up to you. Okay guys, that's this video done. I hope you got something out of it. If you liked this video, I'd love it for you to like and subscribe to my channel for more craft DIY projects coming up soon. Thanks so much for watching, and remember, get creative today. Thanks again for watching today's video. I really hope you're getting some value out of my videos, and let me know in the comments if there's any specific craft DIY videos or upcycling projects or even creative business tips that you'd like to see a video on. I'm currently working on 2 to 3 videos a week, so there's so much coming and I'd love your input. So again, just remember to subscribe and hit that bell if you'd like to be notified of my upcoming videos. In the meantime, just try and do something creative every day. You'll just notice the difference, how much it makes you feel better. Thanks guys.